I'm not sleeping very well. I think I'm traumatized. And I know it's not something to laugh at, but I really do think so because of what happened last Tuesday. See, last Tuesday I rode a bicycle and then actually a unicycle all the way to Los Angeles, and not on purpose. But let me tell you how it happened. See, this spring during all the COVID stuff, I got my hands on a penny farthing bicycle. It's like one of those old-fashioned kinds, with the big 52-inch front wheel and the little 12-inch back wheel, and it's got the seat and the handlebars, look like a mustache, They're on the playing cards. You've seen pictures, right? Well, I got one of these through, don't worry about it, and they're a lot of fun to ride, really. They are. They're a little hard to get used to, but they're pretty cool, and so I'd like to take it out. But you can't really ride in town. In city, it's no good because the stoplights and stop signs and stuff, you have to get down off the bike and back up. That's no good. And these things corner like the Titanic. And so I'd take mine out to the country roads, out, near any old town. I like Highway 66, Route 66, that's where I get my kicks. And I usually go out there because then you can just go in a straight line and make one curve and turn back and, go all the way back again. And it's a blast. So last Tuesday I started about at dawn, and I started with Bourbon. Started in Bourbon, actually just outside of Bourbon, Missouri. I drove my bike out there. I put it on the top of my old Peugeot sedan, which, by the way, was a prize I won in an oyster shucking contest with the Archbishop Delors in Marseille, but that's a story for next year. So I put it on top of my Peugeot, and it makes my car actually like twice as tall as normally it would be. And when you're driving it on the highway, it feels like you've got a sail above you. It's kind of fun. But I drove out 44, and I got off at exit 218 to Bourbon and got onto old Route 66 and was driving along in Bourbon and was going just past that salvage yard that's on the south side of the Highway 66. That salvage yard, Lumley Brothers Salvage Yard. I love salvage yards. I love junkyards. The idea of all that scrap metal that you can do stuff with. Well, I was looking in the junkyard like I normally do as I was driving past, and I saw coming around the corner of the Quonset hut of the Lumley Brothers offices, it was the largest junkyard dog I have ever seen in my life. This thing was massive. It was the size, if you'd have told me it was a bull, I would have argued that bulls don't get that big, but it was huge, and it was this mud brown color, and it was all just muscle bound. It was all shoulders and sinew and muscle and bone and fang, and it had this big collar on that had spikes all over it, and it had notches in it. I don't want to know what the notches represented, frankly. I think I know. And in red lettering, I could tell, big red lettering, even from the road, it said Killer Jack on it, and it was huge. And just for a second, it looked toward the road, and I looked at it, and we met eyes. And when we met eyes, we knew our roles. I knew exactly then what a rabbit felt when it met a T-Rex. You know what I'm talking about? It was the great white shark, and I was the sea monkey. And immediately, before I even knew it, it reacted. It dropped the motorcycle that it had been chewing on, and it burst through the gate and came running up the road. I was going 40, 50 miles an hour, but it caught up to me. It caught up to me, and it grabbed my bumper, and it tore the bumper off my poor little Peugeot sedan, and it chomped it like tinfoil and swallowed it and kept running, and it was going to come in. I was afraid it was going to climb in the windows because it was barking also, bark, 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 and it crashed a couple of the windows. It shattered them just with that bark. I was sure it was going to leap inside, so I slammed on the gas. I put my foot way down, and the tires of the Peugeot squealed. Or that might have been me. And I just kept going. I had to keep going. I just went as fast as I could. I tried to get up to that 83 miles an hour that I knew the Peugeot, that's its ceiling. And I thought maybe I could get away, and I sweated bullets and prayed to try to get away from this canine tsunami behind me. Well, 7 hours later, Texas. Finally, I'd put enough distance between me and this creature that I could breathe a little bit, and I could think. It had faded into the distance, and I had pulled way ahead, and it was probably a good thing too, because we passed the city limit sign of Paris, Texas, And my little French car, I guess, just decided that it was home because it, black smoke billowed out of the hood, and it just promptly surrendered right there at the side of the road. My poor little car. It was so sad. So I'm calling AAA there on the shoulder, right? I didn't even get to the third A when I felt the road tremble. And then I smelled dog in the air. And then I heard the bark. That evil bark. That bark, like, it was like Satan's belches after snacking on obnoxious souls. It was that kind of bark. And I could not wait for AAA. So I did the next best thing. I grabbed the bike off the rack and I set it down and I got a running start and I mounted and I pedaled fast as I could, trying to get back up to that 83 miles an hour to keep it at bay. Could I do 83 miles an hour on a penny farthing bicycle? Not much of a choice, because it was coming up. It was coming up behind me, hard and fast. And now I could hear it panting behind me and growling, and I could hear its claws in the road. And now the bark wasn't just a burr, burr, burr. It wasn't that. Now it was more evil, I guess because he'd been running a while. It was like, murrah, murrah, murrah. It was terrifying. It was terrifying. And this went on for hours. Hours passed and miles burned by, and the beast, Killer Jack, did not tire. But neither did I. Now, every once in a while, as we're going through the Texas highway, there would be a car that would come the other way, pass us, and Killer Jack would kind of peel off and eat it. And the time it took to do that, I got ahead for a little while, but it wasn't a few minutes before he came galumphing up behind me again, just as vicious and snarly and evil as ever. And now his breath just smelled like diesel. So here we go. We're going across Texas in this weird, perverse, old-fashioned kind of roadrunner and coyote situation. Me spinning as fast as I can with my pedals, as fast as I can, making those legs go, and him kicking up behind me, kicking up clouds of asphalt dust. And we just kept going. We saw Amarillo, and then Gallup, New Mexico, and Flagstaff, Arizona. I don't recall we saw Winona, and then Kingston and Barstow and San Bernardino. And you see, in San Bernardino, when he got to California, that's when it happened. That was the really dangerous time, because when I crossed into San Bernardino, I got this cramp. You ever get a cramp when you're exercising? I totally got this cramp, and it was in my spleen, which really made me slow down. That's a painful thing. It slowed me down just enough that Killer Jack had the moment he was looking for, and he lunged forward with his toothy mouth, and he ripped off that 12-inch wheel from the back of my bike, from the back of my penny farthing, and he ripped it off, and he ate it, and it slowed him a little bit down because the little spokes are kind of hard to swallow, but he ate it. And I can't believe that I actually kept my balance and my speed 83 miles an hour. All I was on now was that 52-inch front wheel, which was now the largest unicycle in California. I mean, that's really what it was. And I kept going. I just kept going, trying to keep that thing at bay. And then I had an idea. I was getting close to the Pacific. If I could find a boat somewhere, Santa Monica, the pier at Santa Monica, if I could find a boat, then I could get on that boat and I could go. Surely I could paddle faster than this thing could dog paddle. And, how far off coast was Bora Bora, really? So I kept going. I went to Santa Monica. But I needed a minute to get off the unicycle and get into whatever boat. If this thing was on my back, I'd have no chance. And on the midway of Santa Monica Pier on the boardwalk, I got my chance. You see, a guy my size and my look on a unicycle, 52 inches, chased by some voracious demon dog. It's kind of a scary sight. And fortuitously for me, a fresh funnel cake that had fallen from the fist of a frightened 4-year-old gave me the break I was looking for, because Killer Jack stopped. He stopped to eat it. And also the funnel cake. And it gave me a chance to ride out onto the pier. And when I rode out onto the pier, I slalomed through all the fishermen that were fishing off the dock. And I was looking, and there was nothing. And now I heard the howl of the creature as he caught my scent. He was coming. Killer Jack was coming. But there were no boats. There wasn't a rowboat or a sailboat or a canoe or a kayak. Nothing. Not even an elderly person with a kickboard. And I didn't know what to do. I skidded to a stop at the end of the pier, and which is hard to do on a unicycle, as you know. And I just got off and I pushed myself on the back of the pier, and there he was. There he was. Just at the end of the pier, quarter of a mile away, and the screaming crowds totally parted for him. They parted, and there I saw him, and he was there, and he was smiling, and he wasn't barking anymore, just kind of gutturally growling. and he came, and then he charged at me. And he was massive, and as he ran, he knocked all the fishermen into the water as he came closer, and his eyes were full of cold, dead fire, like shark's eyes, just nothing there, and his coat was covered in blood and diesel oil and powdered sugar, and his mouth, his rows and rows and rows of teeth, had nothing in them but shredding painful death for me. And I crouched down, and I turned away, and I exposed my neck, which was foolish, I know, and he lunged at me. Yank! Spung! Clank! End of his chain.